during the period of time we were friends. With these thoughts in mind, I started writing about what it was like for me to know him, but also, crucially, about my own personal odyssey. A young woman trying to do good work and trying to get herself taken seriously in a world of men. During my career, I would learn about the profoundly compromised men who make the art we venerate, and I would learn about protecting the egos of these men. I would learn about power. That was the world I lived in. Little did we know then that we were in the last days of a dying order. All empires collapse eventually, of course. A.M., August 2019. 1. In my office at Esquire was a hand-me-down frame, bequeathed from fiction editors of the past. It was made of chrome, complicatedly beat up, and held a piece the magazine had run in the 80s called Who's Who in the Cosmos, 1987. When I started my job as the magazine's literary and fiction editor, I found this frame lying on the floor underneath my desk. The Who's Who, published in the August 1987 summer fiction issue, was part of a special section that month called The Literary Universe. It was one of those exercises in classification and pigeonholing that magazines have done since the beginning of time, a power chart of the era's so-called literary establishment. Cover stars from this issue? John Updike and William Styron. The Who's Who map, which looked kind of like a kid's outer space placemat, was a 3-page gatefold with hundreds of floating context-free names of various writers, editors, agents, critics, teachers, and publishers grouped in categories such as rising stars, falling stars, out of orbit, the parallel universe, and lost in space. You get the drift. Or maybe you don't. Probably you shouldn't. With all due respect to the legendary Esquire fiction editor L. Rust Hills, who compiled the thing as a sort of reprise to a literary power chart the magazine published in 1963, I could never make heads or tails of it. I can guarantee that few Esquire readers of the 80s could either. One thing was clear. The place to be on the chart was the red-hot center. As Rust had written in his introduction, the persons located there were generating enormous amounts of heat. The fiction writers placed within that particular red-hot sun, they are all dead now, the sun a graveyard, were Saul Bellow, John Updike, Raymond Carver, Elmore Leonard, and Norman Mailer. Toni Morrison, probably the most important living American novelist, was relegated to a moon in deep space, mentioned only in a roundup of her agency's clients. The red-hot center did contain the names of 3 women, but none of them were novelists, and only one was a writer, a book critic. The other 2 were a literary agent and a socialite. And they are all still very much alive, these 3. But that's no real surprise. The women always do seem to persevere in the end. I never knew what to do with the frame. I loathed the literary star system and everything this chart represented, and there was no way I was ever going to hang it on my wall. But I could never quite bring myself to toss it either. I tried to give it away, but I never found any takers, not even among the more seasoned Esquire veterans, meaning Rust Hills, who never seemed to want to take credit for his own creation. So, during the years I had that office, the framed Who's Who existed in a kind of purgatory, lying face up on the bottom shelf of a bookcase behind my desk, with books and submissions and whatnot stacked on top of it. When I started the job in 1997, no single media outlet could presume the literary universe-wide authority Esquire had attempted to claim for itself a decade before. Was there anything vaguely resembling a red-hot center, or even a general literary universe anymore? And if there was I, now somehow at age 25, as Esquire's literary editor, an improbable gatekeeper to it? Or warden?